At the beginning of the series, devil fruits were considered very rare. Most people did not believe they existed in the first place, and getting into Paradise, we saw that they were pretty common actually. And we saw later on, of course, in the New World and the end of Paradise, that devil fruits and Haki were pretty common as well. Pretty much every fighter in the New World has Haki or devil fruits. But we need something to set the weak apart from the strong, and that is, of course, Conqueror's Haki and Awakening. Now, Luffy has already mastered, or to some degree mastered, the basic nature of Conqueror's Haki and the other colors of Haki, but unfortunately, even though he can use his devil fruits mixed with his physical strength in order to fight off a lot of these powerful New World fighters, his basic weakness right now is not being able to awaken. He also does not have what goes beyond basic Haki. He described after Rusukaina that he could use all of the three colors of basic Haki, but he never said that he could use advanced Haki or anything like that. Nothing that goes beyond the basic three colors of Haki. Maybe in a future video I will go over advanced Haki and what it could be and how Luffy could expand on his Haki. But I want to go over Awakenings more in this video and how Luffy could use his Awakening, not so much with Gear 5th or anything like that. I've done plenty of videos on Gear 5th, but I haven't really talked about how it could affect his lower forms and how improving his Devil Fruit could vastly expand all of his abilities and his entire arsenal. Honestly, I think Awakening should be prioritized right now because everything as far as Haki is concerned has already been mastered to some degree. Everything Rayleigh could teach him during the 2-year time skip has already been learned by him, and improving the power and longevity of his Haki will be a matter of time and him fighting stronger opponents over the course of the series, I think. But Awakening is something you unlock to fully utilize the power of your Devil Fruit. And unlike Haki, it seems like it's going to be something that you unlock once and then you kind of improve it over time. Luffy has been using his Devil Fruit for over a decade, and the fact that he doesn't even know what Awakening is a good sign that you cannot awaken it through just slowly learning the abilities of your Devil Fruit. It might be something that requires an actual strategy to awaken. I went over this in more detail in my last video, of course, so I won't get too into that in this video. But the actual specifics of what his Awakening could do for him, aside from Gear 5th and all those other theoretical abilities that I have covered before, is what I want to cover in this video. Now, in order to explain my points about how Luffy could use his Awakening to improve Gear 4th and all of his previous gears, I will need to go into how other Awakenings have worked within other characters, and how he could apply the same principles to his abilities. Now, of course, the most reliable source we can look to is what Doflamingo said about Awakenings and how he used his own Awakening in order to improve his Devil Fruit abilities. Doflamingo said that once you awaken, you unlock a whole new level of potential for your Devil Fruit, meaning that you could probably unlock a lot of other abilities that are exclusive to your Devil Fruit. He states specifically that it can affect your environment and your body. So in other words, it can affect a variety of different factors with your Devil Fruit. People tend to think that it only affects your environment, which is partially true, but that is not the entire answer. And one thing I want to talk about with Doflamingo is that not only is he turning the environment into string, but he is also manufacturing new string to use, which are more durable, beefy, and overall pack more damage and power than his previous string. Now, just to give you an idea of the contrast, Bullet String is an attack that Doflamingo likes to use a lot. He just fires a string at you and it goes right through your body and it does some damage to your insides. It's a pretty basic attack and it doesn't do a ton of damage. But the contrast would be his Awakening String, which is once more a huge upgrade from his previous string. At the end of the fight with Luffy, he uses an attack named the 16 Heavenly Bullets. And this is essentially a huge upgrade from his standard bullet string. It's like the ultimate version of that. And it is, of course, only achieved through his Awakening String, which he condenses into 16 individual bullets and then fires them out. The key point here is that Doflamingo was enhancing the quality of his string by manufacturing an abundance of string and then compressing them into a more durable string. And this is in essence what his Awakening allows him to do. Now, one other Paramecia fruit user who I want to point out who could have been awakened is Magellan. Magellan was able to create a much stronger and much more effective and more toxic poison in his giant red venom demon form. The contrast with his standard more purplish venom and the crimson venom is that he is able to actually destroy the entirety of Impel Down with this red venom, this red poison. And depending on how literally you want to take that statement, it's a pretty big difference from going from poisoning somebody slowly like Luffy and then being able to destroy an entire government building, which is colossal. So once more, we see a very big contrast between his standard element and his enhanced element. And this could have a lot to do with his maybe awakening, or maybe it wasn't awakening at all, but it does seem like it's an improved devil fruit ability of some sort. And the last example I'm going to use here is Cracker. Now, although it was never confirmed that Cracker was awakened, the way he explained his ability definitely makes it seem like he could have been awakened potentially. We see that when he's creating the crackers, it seems to be kind of coming out of the ground to some degree, and he also states that much like Doflamingo, he can create an infinite amount of crackers and crumbs, meaning that maybe he's pulling it from the environment or the air, and this could be how his ability is limitless in a way. He also states that he has perfected the art of crafting biscuits, and this makes his biscuits hard enough to where even Luffy's armament hockey cannot break through it without Gear Forth. So if you look at his standard biscuit armor as like his standard ability to just create crackers around him, and if you look at his biscuit army as like an awakening in a sense by turning the environment around him into biscuits and forming a little army out of it, then maybe that is how his awakening works. But once more, I want you to focus on what he says about his crackers and biscuits, and that he is able to pretty much perfect the density of his biscuits to the point where they are almost unbreakable without Gear Forth. This is another example of how a Devil Fruit user can make their material very efficient and basically improve the power of their element or their material. So if we apply this principle to Luffy, then maybe over time he can change and alter and improve the efficiency and sort of change the composition of his rubber body and maybe use different types of rubber over time. And to fully explain how this could end up working, we have to look at how Balance Man and Tank Man seem to function. Now, I explained in my Gear Forth forums video a long time ago that Luffy would probably end up getting a very defensive form that would be very pudgy and armored, and that he might get a very fast and slim form that would make him a lot more quick and maybe more powerful in a sense. And now that alternate forms within Gear Forth has been pretty much confirmed, I still stick to the whole idea that this will be the basis for how his forms work. I think that this pudgy form he has, Tank Man, is his defensive form, and that he will get a more offensive form that is quicker and he will use to basically have the jump on his opponent. And he has already shown that he can change the property of his rubber body. In Bounce Man, he is becoming super bouncy, and in his Tank Man form, he is becoming super soft and pudgy and very flexible in a sense. We see that Bounce Man has aspects of Tank Man within it already. It is able to absorb attacks much like Tank Man, but Tank Man can absorb much stronger attacks, and maybe Bounce Man is simply a combination of his two other forms. He already has aspects of Tank Man, which is the absorption factor, but maybe the other factor that he can use of rubber is his hardness. Vulcanizing rubber is the process of making rubber very hard and durable, a lot more efficient in a sense, and this is often used in bowling balls and tires, and this is basically in order to make it a lot more stable. We see with Bounce Man is not very stable, he bounces uncontrollably, and in Tank Man, he is not able to move at all, he is too heavy, and he's also very pudgy, and he has trouble probably moving around in general. But in this lighter form, maybe he will become vulcanized by using the harder nature of rubber, and he will be able to maybe compress the air inside of him and make his body a lot slimmer. And in this sense, he could also be able to fly a lot faster. He would be able to move a lot faster in Gear Forth, and this would be maybe his slim form. And of course, he wouldn't be able to absorb attacks as nicely because he would lose his elasticity a lot, but his body would become a lot more stable and more durable, and this would improve the efficiency of his rubber in that sense. And the reason why I think this is so important is because armament hockey currently has a huge toll on his spirit and energy. He needs to use so much armament to maintain Gear 4th. But if he can actually vulcanize his skin, then maybe he can maintain a Gear 4th for a lot longer with less hockey, because his body will be naturally a lot tougher and it'll be more resilient to the changes and strain of using so much air inside of his muscles. And Tankman is named Tankman because it is slow and it is much like a standard tank. It's very powerful. However, it lacks speed and it lacks being able to go heavy on offense. And this is where his other form could specialize. Maybe his other form will be a lot faster, like a jet plane perhaps. And it could fly like Bounce Man flies. It'll be very fast and stable. Tanks can take many hits. However, jet planes and other forms of planes can only take like one shot and they are down. So whereas Tankman can't really attack, this form would be very heavy on attacking. However, it wouldn't be able to be as defensive as Tankman. So maybe after learning how to change the composition of his body, maybe through awakening, he can use this form to be a lot more offensive in battle and maybe fight a lot better against defensive people like Kaido, who are very durable, and being a lot harder will benefit him a lot more if he's trying to take down somebody who is very durable. And if this is based on a jet plane or a fighter plane, maybe it'll be named Fighter Man and will be sort of an aerial type form within Gear 4th that fights, especially in the sky. Although this could be something that he uses within Gear 4th as like an alternative form, it could also be maybe his perfected version of Gear 4th, although I kind of doubt it because I think having a very flexible bunch of forms within Gear 4th is what benefits him most. And if he were to fight against maybe Kaido and his calamities, who are very durable like Jack is, this would benefit him a lot more than his other two forms, I think. With Jack, for example, Jack is not very high on offense. He is very specialized in defense. He is able to absorb a lot of heavy attacks. However, he's not all that strong in offense because when he fought the Dukes, he wasn't able to deliver that many heavy blows. But he was able to survive some crazy stuff. A form that is very heavy on offense would benefit Luffy a lot more against people like this. And maybe on top of improving Gear 4th, he could also improve his lower gears by manipulating the element of rubber and the composition of his rubber body. And of course, by incorporating a different environmental effect, maybe by making the ground bouncy or by making the air bouncy, he could improve stuff like Bounce Man, or Tank Man could maybe be more stable if he were to, say, make the outside a lot harder. But tell me what you think. Do you think Luffy will be able to manipulate the nature of his rubber body? Do you think he won't need any sort of special power outside of awakening to be able to do this and unlock this? Do you think that it will expand the time limit of Gear 4th and will it make it even more powerful in that sense? Go ahead and write your comments down below. Like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. But other than that, I will see you all next time.